She made her eat outside, with the dogs, in the dark. While 8 dinner guests sat at a table 30 feet away, Catherine Prescott thought that was the end of the story. It was not the end. It was the beginning. 18 months later, Simone Hayes would stand in that same garden, not holding a plate, holding a contract, worth $140,000, signed by Catherine Prescott herself. This is how it happened. Simone Hayes was 31 years old. She had worked in the Prescott household for 4 years. 6 days a week, 12-hour days. A salary that barely covered her rent. She was not just a housekeeper. She was the person who made that house run. She planned every dinner party Catherine hosted, every floral arrangement, every menu, researched, designed, coordinated. She knew which guests had dietary restrictions, which ones preferred their wine chilled to a specific temperature, which conversations to keep separate because of old tensions she had figured out by paying attention. Catherine Prescott had won 3 consecutive Best Hosted Event awards from her social circle. Simone had organized all 3 events. Her name appeared in none of the write-ups. She had grown up watching her aunt Joyce run a catering business from a single van. Joyce had built it into a 12-person operation over 15 years. She had told Simone once, "The people who plan the party never get credit at the party." Simone had remembered that. She had been planning her response to it for 3 years. Catherine Prescott was 53 years old, married to Harold Prescott, real estate billionaire, for 26 years. She had never worked a day of her adult life. She had spent 26 years perfecting the art of being seen in the right rooms with the right people. She was not unintelligent. She was simply the kind of person who had learned early that cruelty is a form of currency in certain social circles, that treating people beneath you badly, visibly, publicly, signals something to the people beside you. It signals, "I have the power to do this, and nobody will stop me." She had been doing it to Simone for 4 years. Small things mostly, wrong name in front of guests, Shannon instead of Simone, sending food back that was perfect, commenting on Simone's appearance in front of visitors. But the night of the dinner party, that was different. That was deliberate. That was a performance. It was a Friday evening in October, 8 guests. Eve the Hendersons, the Blackwells, Margaret Holt, Catherine's closest friend, and her husband. A senator's wife whose approval Catherine had been trying to secure for 2 years. Simone had spent 3 days preparing for this dinner, the menu, the flowers, the seating arrangement. She had tasted every dish. She had pressed the tablecloth herself. At 7:45, the guests were seated. At 7:53, Simone carried the first course from the kitchen. Catherine intercepted her in the dining room doorway. She said, quietly, but not quietly enough, "Staff don't eat inside the house during dinner service. Take your meal outside." Simone looked at her. She had eaten her staff meal in the kitchen every night for 4 years. There was no rule about eating outside. There had never been a rule about eating outside. And Catherine held out a plate, smiled at the guests at the table, said, "We like to keep things proper." 2 guests looked away. Margaret Holt watched. The senator's wife watched. Simone took the plate, walked to the back door, stepped outside. The 2 dogs were eating from their bowls on the patio, Bruno and Rex. She had fed them every day for 4 years. They wagged their tails when they saw her. She sat on the garden bench, ate her meal, looked through the glass door at the dinner party. She was not crying. She was counting, not the days, the things she knew, the things she had built, the things that were almost ready. Here is what Catherine Prescott did not know about the woman she had just sent outside. Oh, for 3 years, while working 6 days a week in the Prescott house, Simone Hayes had been building a catering and event planning company. Not loudly, not obviously, quietly, in the margins of a life that appeared to have no margins. Every technique she had learned planning Catherine's events, she had documented, refined, and turned into a system. Every contact she had made through the Prescott household, every florist, every wine supplier, every specialty food vendor, she had cultivated independently: professional relationships, her own accounts, her own rates. Her boyfriend Derek, a graphic designer, had built her a website. Her aunt Joyce had given her use of her commercial kitchen on weekends. She had done 11 private events over 14 months. Small ones, birthday dinners, anniversary parties, a corporate lunch. And every single client had called her again. Every single one. The company was called SH Events. The name was deliberate. Simone Hayes. Her name, only hers. She had been 3 months away from leaving the Prescott house entirely, 3 months away from giving notice, 3 months away from never eating outside again. Catherine had moved the timeline. The next morning, Simone arrived at the Prescott house at 7 as usual. She cleaned the dining room from the night before. She prepared breakfast. She fed Bruno and Rex. At 8:15, Catherine came downstairs, didn't acknowledge Simone, poured her coffee, sat at the kitchen island, began scrolling her phone. Simone placed an envelope on the counter beside her coffee cup. Catherine looked at it, looked at Simone. Simone said, 4 weeks' notice, as per my contract. Catherine said, you can leave today. Simone said, my contract requires 4 weeks or payment in lieu. She set a copy of the contract beside the envelope. Catherine stared at her. Simone held her gaze. The payment was made by noon. Simone was gone by 1. She drove to Joyce's house, sat at the kitchen table. Joyce put a cup of tea in front of her, said, so it's time. Simone said, it's time. The next 6 months were the hardest of Simone's professional life, and the most alive she had ever felt. She moved SH Events out of Joyce's kitchen and into a shared commercial space. She hired 2 part-time staff, both women she had met through previous events. She raised her rates, then raised them again. The referrals multiplied. A birthday party led to a corporate retreat. The corporate retreat led to a wedding. The wedding led to something Simone had not anticipated. The bride's mother, a woman named Patricia Holt, was so impressed she called Simone personally. She asked if SH Events was available for a charity gala. High-profile, ticketed event. 200 guests. Her daughter's wedding had been the best catered event she had attended in 20 years. Simone said yes. She did not yet know who Patricia Holt's daughter was. Patricia Holt was Margaret Holt's mother-in-law. Margaret Holt, Catherine Prescott's closest friend. The woman who had watched Simone walk out the back door with her plate, and had said nothing. Simone sat with that for a moment. Then she opened her calendar and confirmed the booking. 3 weeks before the gala, Simone received the full guest list. She was reviewing it with Derek at their kitchen table. Running through dietary requirements, table arrangements. She stopped. Table 4, Prescott, Harold and Catherine. Derek looked at her. She looked at the name for a long moment. Then she looked at Derek, said, we're not cancelling. He said, I didn't say cancel. He said, I said, are you okay? She looked at the list again, said, I'm more than okay. Then she started planning the best event she had ever produced. The night of the gala. The venue was a ballroom in the city's most prestigious hotel. 200 guests, a live string quartet. 7-course menu designed personally by Simone. SH Events arrived 4 hours early. 8 staff in sharp black uniforms, Simone in a tailored charcoal blazer and white shirt. Her company name embroidered on the breast pocket. By 6:15, the room was flawless. Guests began arriving at 7. Harold and Catherine Prescott arrived at 7:20. Catherine in a floor-length emerald dress. She was working the room immediately. Greeting. Air kissing. The practiced performance of a woman who had been doing this for 26 years. She did not notice Simone. Not in the first hour. It was Margaret who saw her first. Margaret Holt. The woman who had watched and said nothing. She was collecting a drink from the catering table. She looked up, made direct eye contact with Simone. Simone smiled at her professionally, said, "Good evening. Can I get you anything?" Margaret stared, took her drink, walked directly across the room to Catherine. Simone watched her go. She turned back to her team, said, "Table 6 needs water, and make sure the third course is plated in the next 8 minutes." Then she heard her name. Not her name. The wrong name. Shannon. She turned. Catherine Prescott was standing 6 feet away. Emerald dress, champagne glass, expression that had not yet decided what it was. Simone looked at her, said, "Mrs. Prescott. Good evening. Is there something I can help you with?" Catherine looked around the room, at the flawless tables, the perfectly dressed staff, the food, the flowers, the atmosphere of an event that was already the best thing her social circle had attended in years. She said, "You organized all of this?" Simone said, "SH Events." "Yes," Catherine said, "I didn't realize." Simone said, "Is there a problem with the service?" Catherine said nothing. Simone said, "If everything is in order, I should get back to the kitchen." She smiled once, professionally, turned, walked away. She did not look back. The gala ran until 11:15. Not a single thing went wrong. The senator's wife, the same one who had witnessed the dinner party 18 months ago, pulled Simone aside at the end of the evening. She asked for her card. She said, "This was the best-run event I have attended in this city." She said, "My foundation holds 4 annual galas. I want to talk to you." Simone gave her a card, thanked her, kept her expression professional. After the last guest left, Simone found Patricia Holt by the exit. Handed her the final invoice. Patricia looked at it, said, "This is exactly what we agreed." Said every penny was worth it. She asked if Simone would be interested in catering their annual spring event. Larger, 300 guests. Simone said yes. She walked to the service exit. Stepped outside. The night air was cold. She called Derek. He answered immediately. I said, "How did it go?" She said, "The Senator's Foundation wants 4 events a year, and Patricia Holt wants the spring gala." Derek was quiet for a moment, then said, "And Catherine?" Simone said, "She ate the food I made. She drank the wine I selected. She complimented the flowers I arranged to everyone in that room except me." Derek said, "How does that feel?" Simone thought about the garden bench, the dogs eating beside her, the glass door, the dinner party inside. She said, "Like I'm done counting. The Senator's Foundation contract was signed 8 weeks later. 4 events a year. A 2-year agreement. Within 3 months, SH Events had been featured in 2 local publications. One of the write-ups included a photograph of Simone at the gala, standing in the same ballroom, in her charcoal blazer, looking like exactly what she was. Catherine Prescott's next dinner party was organized by a different company. The flowers were average. The menu was uninspired. 3 guests left before dessert. Margaret Holt mentioned this to Patricia Holt, who mentioned it to Simone. Professionally, matter-of-factly. "Just, I heard Catherine's last event did not go well." Simone said, "That's unfortunate," and moved on to the next item on her agenda. Here is what Catherine Prescott never understood. She thought humiliation was a ceiling. A way of keeping someone in a room they were not supposed to leave. What she had not calculated was that the woman she sent outside already knew the way out. She had been building it for 3 years. In the margins of every dinner party Catherine had taken credit for. With every contact she had made through Catherine's own household. Using every skill Catherine had benefited from and never once acknowledged. The dogs got a good meal that night, and so did Simone Hayes. She just ate hers somewhere better 18 months later. If you enjoyed this story, please like this video and subscribe to Turning Point Tales. We will see you in the next one.